Welcome, all of you. It's really wonderful to be with all of you. The Nigun, the beautiful Nigun that we were listening is Tu BiShvat Nigun by Batya Levin. And we love bringing her music to our TBZ in general, but it was beautiful to start with this, to bring us together to this same space, even though each of us are in different places all over the Boston area and New York and beyond. Some people are in space, I can see behind. People are coming from all over. We bring the kavanah, the intentionality of bringing all of us to the same place, to the same, perhaps not physical place, but to the same spiritual place. And one kavanah that I've been enjoying on Shabbat, that I've been sharing, inspired by a teaching that Noah Weinberg taught one Shabbat, is this idea that even though we cannot be in the same space physically, we have an opportunity to be in each other's spaces. that you invited me now to your home and I invited you to my home. That our homes are now open to each other in ways that we never imagined we would invite each other to homes. So really welcoming each other to our homes at this moment to celebrate this beautiful holiday of Tu BiShvat together. I encourage you and invite you to use the chat as a way to connect. Imagine that we're having a Tu BiShvat Seder and you're schmoozing with the person next to you. And you know, and I'm shushing you, shh, you're schmoozing too loud. The chat is not loud, so just feel free to schmooze and tell us who are you, where are you coming from, say hello to each other, and try to, like Matan says, is try to figure out which fruit are being shared there. We'll have opportunity to share our fruits with all of us. And I am delighted to be leading this Tu BiShvat Seder with my amazing, beautiful, uplifting spiritual team of TBZ, Rav Tiferet Barenbaum, Noah Weinberg, and Tyler Drach, who happen all to be people that have been involved in many, many ways or different ways with Hazon, which our guest today is the CEO, the founder and CEO, president and CEO and founder of Hazon, the Jewish Lab for Sustainability, Nigel Savage. Nigel is a dear, close friend, and I am very excited that he is with us. He founded Hazon in 2000. Wow, it's 21 years, Nigel, now, long time. And this has been really an organization that has inspired so much of the work that it's happening around Jewish life, sustainability, climate change. And we're very proud that TBZ has become a partner of Hazon in so many ways, from our teens that are now actively involved in Hazon with a youth group of Hazon at TBZ, to many other things that we will be sharing. There's a lot to say about Nigel, but my favorite part about Nigel's bio is that he is believed to be the first English Jew to have cycled across South Dakota on a recumbent bike. So just saying that about Nigel tells you how Nigel is this special man. And we're so happy you could come all the way from the Upper West Side to my home in Brookline. And Deb Gaffin wants to know who is the second Jewish man. Deb may be someone in your family who never knows. But so glad you could come to my home here in Brooklyn, and I can come to your home in the Upper West Side at the same time to celebrate this holiday. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Nigel, who is going to give us an introduction to Tu BiShvat. Where does it come from? What is Tu BiShvat? And he will bring us into this wonderful holiday.
So, Rav Claudia, thank you for that, and Tu BiShvat Sameach to you, and to Rav Tiferet, and to Noah, and to Tyler, and to Mark and Catherine, and the Gergen Barnetts, and Deirdre, and anybody else that I left out. I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm so honored. In a personal sense, I love TBZ. I sort of consider myself like a very southernmost member or friend of TBZ. I'm always happy when I'm physically there. I'm very honored to be with you virtually. And I want to say really seriously, I love Tu BiShvat. Like those of us who engage with Jewish life, you can almost take it for granted. Tu BiShvat is really, really amazing. Like, it's a really amazing celebration. And it teaches so much about what it means to be Jewish. So I want to just frame Tu BiShvat very briefly at the start. And we're going to do it together. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to argue that there are 4 phases of Tu BiShvat. And so for each of these questions, anybody just unmute yourselves and answer. I want to ask somebody, when was the first phase of Tu BiShvat? How did Tu BiShvat enter Jewish history? What was it originally? Somebody who has a sense of that, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us.
I think people can't unmute themselves because of the setting, but maybe if they can wait, we can unmute them, or they can.
Crazy power.
I think I've got it.
Great. All right. Looks like you're going to say something. You're up.
I think that it originated from to basically figure out at what point the 5th year of the trees would be so that you can eat the fruit.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So we're in Second Temple times, right? We've entered human history as an indigenous people. We're in the land of Israel. And at least 3 times a year, we take up offerings to the temple in Israel. And we're taking them from our crops, from our harvest. And so the question is, when does the tax year begin and end? In our civil tax year, it ends on December 31st. But we need to know, is it this year or last year? And so the dividing line was Tu BiShvat, the full moon of Shvat, the period that is just the very beginnings of the new year in the land of Israel. The almond blossoms, the buds of almonds are just beginning to appear on the trees. That's what Tu BiShvat was originally, more than 20 centuries ago, for real. So then we get, the Second Temple gets destroyed. We get expelled from the land of Israel. Tu BiShvat goes into desuetude. When was the last time you heard that word in conversation? Right? We're like literally not taking offerings to the temple. So we can't actually, we can't fulfill it. But in classically Jewish fashion, even though we couldn't do it, we could learn about it. And so it goes into the Mishnah. And in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, we learn that it was one of the new years, that Tu BiShvat was the new year for trees. So when's the second time that Tu BiShvat starts to come to life? Anybody, any guesses? Demute yourselves. Or not even guesses, some of you will know. And I can't see people, so don't just unmute yourself and go ahead and tell us. When would you say is the next incarnation of Tu BiShvat? When's the next flowering of Tu BiShvat?
Mark.
I feel like it was the 16th century in Spot.
It was the 16th century. You win a prize. You probably win a date or a nut, right? And your kids can say, oh, he got it right. So the Jews got expelled from Spain in 1492, and they spread across the Mediterranean basin, and some of them ended up back in Israel. And every time that we've reconnected with land, I want to say, and especially the land of Israel, in a good way, it's made us just a little bit crazy. And so the Kabbalists in Sfat, somebody, we literally don't know who, but somebody at some point, we think that Jewish creativity is in our generation, but at some point somebody was sitting there in the 1500s and says, guys, we're in Israel. Let's celebrate Tu BiShvat. And somebody else will have said, well, what should we do? And somebody else must have said, well, you know what? It's the full moon of Shvat. In 2 months' time, it's the full moon of Nisan. On the full moon of Nisan, the 15th of Nisan, we have a Pesach Seder. Let's have a Tu BiShvat Seder. And somebody else goes, oh, that's cool. We have 4 cups of wine at the Pesach Seder. Let's have 4 cups of wine at our Tu BiShvat Seder, but we'll do it a bit differently. Let's have fruit and nuts to celebrate the new season. And really, truly, by the way, when TBZ and many of us in different pieces of our life, when we exercise a certain kind of creativity in Jewish life, we should be exercising creativity, but we're not the first generation to discover that. And the Kabbalists in Sfat, who are the same people who did L'Chadodi, right? If you've ever sung L'Chadodi on a Friday night, that too dates back to then. That's the second flowering of Tu BiShvat. The earliest record of a Tu BiShvat Seder we have is called Priyetz Hadar from the 17th century, but it almost certainly goes earlier than that. Okay, what's the third manifestation of Tu BiShvat? Anybody? Whole different ball game.
The state of Israel.
So warm. So yes, so I'm going to say it's like 19th century secular Zionists, right? The Kabbalists in Sfat, incredibly like religious and spiritual. The secular Zionists in the 19th century, fleeing their parents, fleeing tradition, wanting to reclaim the land, that theme again, right? If you ever had a Tu BiShvat tree certificate from JNF, that dates back then. A secular Zionist literally getting their hands dirty in the soil of Israel. They're like, oh, what's the holiday that we should be celebrating? It's Tu BiShvat. I want to add, the state of Israel is the only country in planet Earth that ended the 20th century with more trees than it began, right? A century that was all about deforestation. And it's because of the JNF and the notion of planting trees. And just to be clear, we've learned from a current generation of Israeli environmentalists, they planted the wrong trees. They weren't all native to the land of Israel. It was monoculture. Some of it had to get changed. There were some other issues. But nevertheless, there's a straight line from Tu BiShvat as this ancient holiday to a real live country as it became, planting several billion trees, right? Because we have a new year for trees. And then the fourth manifestation of Tu BiShvat is where we are now. In 1970, it was Earth Day. And in the aftermath of Earth Day, there were students from HUC, the Reform Rabbinical School, who in 1971 did the first environmentally themed Tu BiShvat Seder. And they essentially said, oh, wow, just like all the previous generations reinterpreting it, they said, as we say now, we're in a moment when we're burning up the world, wearing one hat, and wearing another hat, we're Jewish. We love Jewish tradition. We engage with it. We reinterpret it. We build community. We want to be good people. How should we mark that? When is a day that we should mark to remind us of all of this, to reconnect us to the land, to trees, and to the real world that we live in, and not just the land of Israel, but now the whole planet, which we have seen from space. That was the first Tu BiShvat Seder, the first modern environmental Tu BiShvat Seder. My first Tu BiShvat Seder was in 1986 in London with Bonnet and Shmuel Haberman Browns, and they traced back like a branch on a tree to that Tu BiShvat Seder in 1971. And those branches of the tree come all the way down to us here. So I'm going to hand back in a second to Rav Tiferet or whoever's going to go next. But I just want to say, as we now go through this Seder, we're going to sing, we're going to learn, we're going to say some things. Let's just try and hold all of those pieces, that we're part of an ancient people, that we've been connected to the land of Israel for 20 centuries, that we care about trees and the turning of the season, that we care about trees as public policy, that we care about relationship to land as spirituality, and that in being heir to Jewish tradition, we want to use this holiday to try and create a better world for everybody. Tu BiShvat Sameach, on with the show.
Thank you so much, Nigel. I'm talking and you can't hear me. I'm saying a lot of things. I said thank you, Nigel, very much for your amazing introduction and for bringing us into this part. What we're going to do now, we're going to go through the four cups and the four worlds and the four fruits. One led by each of us, one led by me, by Tyler, by Noah, and by Rav Tiferet, inviting us all to celebrate this holiday. So I get the first one. I get the first cup, or the first world of Asiyah, of action. And we have a Agadah that is going to be shared. Thank you, Tyler. And it comes from a little bit from some different Hazon Agadot and some other collections of stuff that we put together. So we start with the world of Asiyah, and we start with this world of action. We are a small seed waiting patiently to fulfill our potential and grow into a beautiful tree. Kabbalistically, the first cup is defined as asiyah, action. It is the realm of the concrete, the physical. At this level, the greatest need it is for protection, for shields and defenses. It is risky to let our defenses down, to open up, to peel off protective shells. This world is represented by fruits with an inedible outer shell and an edible inner core. So I'm going to invite you, we'll move on to the wine in a moment so you can stop sharing, Tyler. I'm going to invite you for a moment. We're going to do a short meditation, a short tree meditation. I'm going to invite all of us to imagine ourselves as trees. Close your eyes, root your feet in the ground. If you even feel a little more creative, you can even stand like a tree. Put your feet on the ground. Remind yourself that your body is your trunk. It's holding you. Your hands, that's the branches. And you choose what kind of branches, which part, when your tree is in it. And take a few moments, close your eyes. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. And so you imagine yourself as a tree. Feel the roots on the ground, the branches around. But I want you to focus, take a moment to think about your outer shell, your bark that is protecting you, that's protecting your core. The bark that shields us, protects us. Feel that protection for a moment. Take a moment to translate that protection in how it manifests in your own life. What protects you? What is that embraces you in ways that holds you steady, standing, rooted, grounded? What is that that gives you that hug, that embrace, that makes you feel that even when there is a strong wind, you're not going to fall because you're strong, you're standing strong. Feel that bark that protects you. Take a few moments on that. When you're ready, open your eyes. If you're standing, join us back. Take a deep breath. I am struck by the image of bark that protects, an outer shell that it's a protector, but also an outer shell that doesn't allow us to see the inside so easily. The fruit I have for tonight, I went with the hardest one. It's a walnut. I got huge walnuts. Can you see my walnut? And I can't open it with my hands. Maybe I can if I put two at the same time. I can't. Evan was doing it before with two at the same time, but I can't. So I have my nutcracker. Here's my nutcracker. And I'm thinking about what are the shells that protect us, that make us feel stronger? And what are the shells that actually make us hide, doesn't allow us to bring our true self? There's some shells that are profoundly sustaining, and there are some shells that don't allow us to see the true inner parts of ourselves. So I'm going to crack my nut. If you have a fruit with your, this is not easy stuff, guys. With your outer shell, do it. Oh, I try like 3 before the Seder, so this wouldn't be so terrible. Here's the microphone. Did you hear that? Whoa. This is my nut. I'm not very good nutcracker here. So I have my nut ready. Let's talk a moment. Let's talk about the first cup. For this first cup, we get our white cup of wine. I got a little Moscato because I like sweetness. And it just happened to have a tree with a bird. Here it is. And it is, as every Jewish holiday, we start with a cup of wine or cup of grape juice with Kiddush. And it's the white, the first one, representing the beginning, the time when creation began, with a separation of light from darkness and the spark of divine creation. So if you have your cup of wine or grape juice or water or whatever you have, I invite you to raise it up. And we'll say the bracha together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam boreh pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו להזמן הזה. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
And oh, this is good. I like muscat. Okay, and I'm going to take my not very well cracked nut. Here it is. And I'm going to say the next bracha. And I would like to see other people's fruits. So show them, write in the chat what kind of fruit you have, that you had to take it, work out the shell, and let's say together. Oh, I like seeing all that you have. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher boreh pri ha'etz. Amen. This is good. Oh, I'm going to do one song. Nigel told us about the shkedia poracha, the almond trees that are blooming. So you have to sing with me, even though I cannot hear your voices. Sing with me, okay? השקדיה פורחת ושמש פזורחת, ציפורים מראש כל גג מבשרות בבוא החג. ט"ו בשבט הגיע חג לאילנות, ט"ו בשבט הגיע חג לאילנות, הארץ משוועת הגיעה עת לטעת, כל אחד איתה פועץ והיא תמנצה נוצץ. ט"ו בשבט הגיע חג לאילנות, ט"ו בשבט הגיע חג לאילנות, ניטע כל הר בגבע מדן ועד באר שבע, בארצנו שוב נירש ארץ זית צרצר ודבר. ט"ו בשבט הגיע חג לאילנות, ט"ו בשבט הגיע חג לאילנות. And before we move to the next world, I want to bring a kavanah, an environmental tshuva, an action that is for us to bring ourselves. This is again from the Hazon Agadah, as we are in this world of asiyah and its world of action, to remind ourselves of the power that each of us has to bring change in the world. So the 4 lines at the end, the 4 purple lines, let's read them together. So everybody, I want you to read them all together. Let us return to our best and truest selves. Let us cultivate a deeper understanding that we are a part of the natural world. Let us step back into our role as part of a symbiotic relationship with the world. Let us plant a seed. Amen. I pass it now to Rav Tiferet.
Thank you. And I have my seed, Rep Claudia. I planted some parsley in honor of Tu BiShvat. Okay. So we're going to continue actually with those the kavanah that we just set, returning to our truest selves, cultivating a deeper understanding that we're part of this natural world, stepping back into our role as part of a symbiotic relationship with the world, and planting seeds within us. So we're here now at the second cup in this world of Yetzirah. You can keep sharing, it's fine, Tyler. We're here in the world of Yetzirah, and we start to think about how we partner with creation, right? Humans are a part of the creation. We don't control it, we partner with it. Can you skip to the next text, please? So in thinking about all of the purple lines that we just read, considering our relationship to food, that is something that puts us very much in this circle of life, the cycle of life, and our connection with the land. And unfortunately, so many people are disconnected from this cycle of production and growing. And I recently started following, I think it's United Farm Workers of America on social media, and they post these fantastic videos of people picking the strawberries that come in those plastic containers to the supermarket that we bring to our homes, right? Or bundling the parsley. It's amazing how fast they can bundle these things up that we just go to the supermarket and pick up. And there's so many hands and souls that come into contact with the food that we take into ourselves for nourishment daily. So we're going to look at a little bit of text, and we'll start right here. So you can go back to the first part really quickly. Sorry. Going back in slideshows is such a pain. So we are called to bless our food before we eat it and after we eat it, actually. And this idea is that it's based on a piece of Torah from Leviticus that talks about the sacred plantings, and that when we consume them, we sing praises. And one of the word for praises is also similar to the idea of redemption. So the thought is, in our blessings, we are redeeming our food, right? We are acknowledging the divine and taking it with permission. Elsewhere in our tradition, it says, anyone who doesn't say a bracha over their food, it's as if they're stealing from not only the Holy Blessed One, but everyone else on this earth. So we're given these blessings. We say, we bless food from the ground, fruit from the trees, food made from grains, bread, wine, and then we have the catch-all blessing for things that don't necessarily fit in those categories. And everything is very specific, as we know. We have the very specific formula. So we're going to look at a text that challenges us, as this says, to think about this formula. Okay, so I'll just read through this English part really quickly. If they brought forth different types of dessert at a dinner, you're at a dinner party, remember those, and people would be serving us food. When they bring out the desserts, it should say probably, one recites over them the blessing, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, the 6 words that begin every blessing, creator of types of sweets. Over edible seeds, one would say, creator of the types of seeds. Over other herbs, one recites creator of types of herbs. Over greens, one would say, as we say now, Borei Pri Ha'adama, creator of the fruit of the ground. But Rabbi Yehuda says, blessed is the one by whose word the earth sprouts. Baruch matzmiach ha'adama bidvaro. I love this blessing. I think I might start following Rabbi Yehuda in this matter. And Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi now are going to, have a back and forth about this. So in a moment, we're going to try to understand what Rabbi Meir is saying and what Rabbi Yossi is saying. So Rabbi Meir says, even if one saw bread and said, blessed is the creator of this loaf, how nice it is, that serves as its blessing. If one saw figs and said, blessed is the creator of these figs, how nice they are, that serves as their blessing. Now, Rabbi Yossi says, anyone who departs from the formula which the sages established for blessings has not fulfilled one's obligation, their obligation to bless food before consuming it. So the question is, what's going on here for Rebbe Meir and what's going on for Rebbe Yossi? What are they really arguing about? And you can put some thoughts in the chat or raise your hand. See if I can move this so I can see people if they're raising their hands. There we go. Anyone have any thoughts?
I think I saw Ruben's hand up.
Ruben?
Yeah?
You want to say something or did you forget? Okay, he forgot.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, that's all right. So what's really going on, in my opinion, what's at odds here is something that's like really deep within our tradition. Meora says that it's our admiration of Hashem's work that matters. And Ken Rosenstein exactly like hit it on the head. The push and pull of keva versus kavanah. That there is the fixed words of the texts that we say, right? And like that's how it is, versus the kavanah, the intention of it, the spontaneity that we can have in a moment to appreciate, as Meora was saying, and admire the work of the Holy Blessed One. Now, both things have their merits and their demerits. I think I read this text and I think about this, the time when I was eating something at a friend's house and I mumbled a blessing so fast, I didn't even realize I had said a bracha. I threw it in my mouth. I went about my day. And the person said, I don't think your blessing was caught. It was so fast. I didn't even recognize that I was eating. I was so committed to the process, and it was deep in my head. Whereas there are times when we have something that's amazing and it's like, oh my God, this is the sweetest piece of clementine I've ever had. Blessed is the creator of this clementine and all the hands that brought it to be in my hand in this moment, right? So to be fully in this moment of eating and consuming. So there's different values, right? There's value in the keva and there's value in the kavanah. And I think that helps the practice of blessing on a regular basis and being aware of the sources where our food, not even just our sources, but the sources and now the additional hands. Because of course, when we received these texts, the process was a lot easier, right? You would grow most of your own food, or your neighbor did some of this, and that you knew where your food was coming from. And now it's a much more complicated situation. So being aware of these blessings and finding ways to hold both, right? To have the special key that fits in the lock of redeeming our food, right? Of saying that the special words of our tradition that we have to acknowledge the source, but also having a moment of kavanah to appreciate the particular food that you have in your hand, the particular process that one piece of food went through to end up in your table, in your refrigerator. We need both again. And may we be blessed to take from now through Pesach and beyond, but really in this period that we're connected to between these two holidays, that we place ourselves in this cycle and we remember our role in it and our connection both to source and to destination. And yes, thank you for letting me share a little bit of Torah.
You lead us on the blessings, Rav Tiferet.
All right. So I've got my fruit. No, I have my wine first. And I'm going to put in a little bit of the red. Little red, because it's spring is a coming, right? So the red reminds us of summer, and we mix it with the winter. And on days like today, we have to look extra hard to see the spring. So we bless. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Okay. So our fruit has at its core that element of protection that Rev Claudia was talking about. And we've built up this fruit on the outside, which is soft and allows us to be malleable in the world while we hold our strength on the inside and draw strength from our inner core. And we bless things like cherries or dates or olives, yummy things. And we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz.
Amen.
Thank you, Rav Tiferet. So important thinking about brachot in that way. It's so good to see everyone tonight. I want to argue for a moment that at this time in our country of great struggle and opportunity, that we could learn something from trees. I read in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago. Thanks. No, you can wait for a minute. I like seeing everyone's faces, and then we'll put it back up. I read this story in the New York Times a few weeks ago about a scientist named Suzanne Simard, and she spent her life wandering through basically spent her childhood playing in this amazing, incredible forest in Canada. And when she grew up, she became, of course, a tree scientist. Like, I grew up around rabbis, so that's why I became a rabbi. But she grew up around trees, so she became a tree scientist. One of the things that her research focused on is an observation that she made that trees, instead of competing with one another for nutrients, soil, maybe some people also read this article in the last month, that these trees actually had roots underground that were connected, and that trees were actually helping each other stay alive. That in a way, the entire system of trees was interdependent. So now you can share the screen, Noah. Oh, it's a nice message, but what does interdependence really mean? The third cup of the Tu BiShvat Seder has a lot of meanings. The third season, the third Kabbalistic world, but it's also the cup of interdependence. I'm inspired by these trees of the Canadian forests, but also our rabbis who are thinking incredibly deeply about what it means to live in a community and needing to rely on others. So the rabbis, not unlike lots of other people, they're a little self-centered. So when they write their texts, they write about Torah scholars. And they say that a Torah scholar is not permitted to reside in any city that does not have these 10 things. A court that has the authority to flog and punish. A charity fund for which monies are collected. A synagogue and a bathhouse and a public bathroom. A doctor and a bloodletter and a scribe. And a ritual slaughterer and a teacher of young children. With these additional requirements, there are a minimum of 120 men who must be residents of the city. These were all said in the name of Rabbi Akiva. The city must also have varieties of fruit, because varieties of fruit illuminate the eyes. So not only is this text teaching that actually a Torah scholar should live in a city with fruit trees, but starts to count all of the people that need to play a role in this one person living a peaceful and productive life in their society. Beyond the 120, the doctor, the people that run the synagogue, the people that run the bathhouse. It is a reminder that the rabbis knew incredibly well that resilient communities rely on each of us playing a part for each other. That despite all of our desire to compete with each other, to hoard resources, we are like those trees with that network of roots under the ground, making sure that a society is livable and resilient for all of us. So I actually want to try something. I'm going to invite people, and Noah's going to share a link in the chat, and I'm actually going to ask him to stop sharing his screen so that I can share mine. I want to answer this question for ourselves. What does it mean for us to live? What does it mean for our community to be livable and resilient? What are some of the things that we need? So I'm actually going to invite you to add a Post-it note to this chat. So the way that you do that is you just click this button that looks like a Post-it note, and a sticky note will appear. You can type in your idea and press save, and look, it will populate somewhere on the screen. If that's all too confusing for you, just put an answer in the chat and we'll add them later. But let's just take a moment to work together. What would it mean for our community to continue to be livable and resilient? What are some of the features? Oh, it's so fun to see them pop up on the screen. I'm just going to read some that are coming into the chat. Parks, livable streets, forests, diversity of species and people, and openness and kindness between all people and all species. And on the gym, listeners, well, that's beautiful. Affordable housing, gardens, sidewalks, birds, healthcare, agreed upon norms, parks, bike lanes. So people can continue to add to this list. TBZ. What would our livable and resilient community be without TBZ? But as we say this blessing for the third cup, the cup of yesh ma'ayin, something from nothing. It's a reminder that all of us together can actually create something much stronger than our individual selves. We actually create a yesh, something that wasn't there before when we work together to build this resilient community. So let's put the slides back up, Noah. Forget if it's the song or the blessing we're gonna do first. And maybe we'll share a copy of our work together. Let's actually do the blessing first, Noah, and then I'll sing to end that. So our third fruit. Oh, we'll say the blessing first on the wine, getting redder. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
And our third fruit, the reminder that we need all of us, all the parts of our community. So it's edible on the outside and the inside. I have a blueberry. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri ha'etz.
Amen.
Before we turn over to Noah, I just want to sing one song. It's from the song I grew up with as a child by songwriter Rafi, about what we really need, what we really, really need of this world to thrive and to grow. All I really need is a song in my heart, food in my belly, and love in my family. All I really need is a song in my heart, and love in my family. And I need the rain to fall. And I need the sun to shine, to give life to the seeds we sow, to give the food that we need to grow. All I really need is a song in my heart, food in my belly, and love in my family. All I really need is a song in my heart, and love in my family. Cup number 4.
Shar koach.
Amen, amen. Wow. Thanks, Tyler. I love that song. Okay. Friends, Tu BiShvat, fruit, nuts, wine. It's so fun. I want to bring to you this sign that I saw in the Echo Kef. You could say that, Echo Kef, right? The Eco Fun Park at Kibbutz Lotan, where I was living in the Arava Desert. And this actually comes from the Talmud, from Masechet Ta'anit. We're gonna have a moment of story time, so settle in. Okay, here comes a story. One day, Honi was journeying on the road. Honi's a fun name, yeah? I like it. His full name is Honi the Circle Maker. Okay. And he saw a man planting a carob tree. Honi asked him, "How long does it take to bear fruit?" The man replied, 70 years. Honi asked him, "Are you certain that you will live another 70 years?" The man replied, "I found this world provided with carob trees, and as my forebears planted these for me, so I plant them for my children." Honi then sat down to have a meal, and sleep overcame him. I've been there. Ever feel really tired after a good meal? As he slept, a small cave formed around him, which hid him from sight, and he continued to sleep for 70 years. It was like a cave time ship. When he awoke, he saw a man gathering the fruit of the carob tree, and Honi asked him, "Are you the man who planted this tree?" The man replied, "I am his grandson." So for me, this story helps me remember that when I look at trees, I can think on a bigger time scale. Not only the time scale of like the meeting an hour from now, or like the thing I have to do next week, or even that the Shemitah is coming up in a year and, oi, what am I going to eat in the Shemitah year? Like, not even on that scale, but on the scale of generations. That I am a descendant of many generations, that I am my grandparents' and great-grandparents' wildest dreams, and that I actually am an ancestor, even though I don't have any kids of my own yet, right? We are actually the collective ancestors of tomorrow. And it makes us ask, just like you plant a carob tree and it doesn't yield for 40 or 70 years, right? What did our grandparents plant for us? What did our ancestors plant for us? And what are we planting for our descendants? So I wanna take you on a little journey here. Oh, we're not gonna do the video. There's a really great video version of the Honi story. You can look it up on YouTube. Okay. Oh. I want to go to the next slide. Okay. So there's someone named Dr. Joanna Macy, who's a really amazing an eco-Buddhist psychologist who does amazing work called The Work That Reconnects. And I've had some amazing teachers in The Work That Reconnects, like Jana Diamond and some others. I realized I had some notes in my, but now I'm sharing the slides. So here we are. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on a little journey out of time together, and we're going to have a conversation. So I'm going to set it up, and then we're going to send you in the breakout rooms. If we were in person, I'd have you sit across from someone and then give you the framing, but I'm going to give you the framing first, and then it's just going to be a short breakout room. So there's two premises. One, the first assumption is that in 7 generations from now, there are people living on Earth, healthy, vibrant lives. So we're going to make that assumption, okay, for this activity, and that they have some memory. They have a sense of history. And what I'm going to do is, actually, Tyler, that would be great. I'm going to stop sharing. And if you could share, that would be awesome. Thanks for bearing with us, folks. Here we are, month 11, right, on Zoom. Okay. You know what? Let's do this. It's been a lot in a row. Let's take a deep breath. Feel yourself here in the moment. Maybe one more. Okay. So when you get to your breakout room, one of you is going to be the person in the 7th generation, living 7 generations from now. You can just stay on the seventh generation slide, and one of you is going to be living now. So I'm going to give you the beginning of the conversation. Ancestor, I greet you. It's so amazing to see your face, because all my life I've heard stories from teachers and grandparents about the time you're living in. And frankly, some of the things I've heard are hard to believe. So I want to check them out. They say that in your time, there are a few people richer than the richest ancient kings, while there are billions of people without enough food or water or shelter. They tell us that in your time, bombs are being made that can blow up whole cities. We know about that, and they say that you knew about it too when you were living, right when the bombs were being made. They tell us that whole species of animals and plants are going extinct. We know about that too, because gone is gone. Ancestor, in our generation, when we find water to drink and soil that's safe to grow food, it's thanks to the work that you and your friends are doing on our behalf. But I bet it must be hard for you, especially at the beginning, when you didn't know what you were going to be up against. And Ancestor, we know you didn't stop just at those first steps. There's songs and stories about everything you did to leave us a livable world. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Okay, so that's what the seventh generation is saying to the people now. And the people now are then going to turn to the seventh generation and say, dear seventh generation, I want to hear from you. What is your world like? What did you hear about my time, about the journey from here to there? Okay, so we're going to put you in a breakout room. I'm going to put these questions in the chat, and you'll have the chat hopefully in your breakout room. And just take 1 minute. Each of you, take 1 minute for each of you to share. I hope you had a really meaningful, beautiful conversation. But I'd love if you would share back in the chat if there was something that you or someone else said that you were like, yeah, ooh, about how you got going or what it was like to live in this world or what your message from the seventh generation back to today was. Please share. I wanted to bring this because, you know, I once remember Nigel saying, Tu BiShvat is not just fruit and nuts, and it's not just for kids. There's real deep questions that this brings up about what does it mean to take the long view and to be planting for our ancestors, and that the trees can really help us understand that. And for me as a farmer who really loves this earth and wants to depend on it and live in deep relationship with it, how can we remember that we are ancestors and live through that? So it's time for our fourth cup and fruit. But actually, at this point, we've had so many cups that we're kind of beyond eating. We're beyond food. We're just at the smelling stage. So maybe you've got maybe a clementine peel or something that's got something to smell, and we're gonna make a blessing over this experience of smelling. And I want you to really smell it, like really smell it. Okay, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten reach tov beperot. Take a whiff. As my mom would say, give a kick.
Amen.
Okay. Really taking that smell, and here we go. The fourth cup, all red. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen. And as we move forward, I invite back Nigel to share with us some more teaching, some more Torah.
So we're coming to an end, and I want to just massively thank everybody who has taught and shared. And really, in a sense, the question is how we take it forwards. Every single holiday in the Jewish calendar comes to remind us of something that ideally we should be thinking about the whole year round. So the whole year round, we should be striving to be our best selves. But if we forget the period around Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the period of tshuva, comes to encourage us to be our best selves. And the whole year round, we should be getting rid of superfluity and crap and stuff that we don't need. But if we forget the period from Purim to Pesach, when we're looking for our chametz, not just literally breadcrumbs, but the stuff that fills up our refrigerators, our kitchens, our pantries, our attics, our head, like it's a time to get rid of it. And Tu BiShvat is about taking all the things that we have thought about this evening and actually playing them out 365 days of the year. For individuals, certainly at Hazon, we're really saying, like coming out of Tu BiShvat, we should be doing three things. Number one, we just need to make some further change in our own behavior. Not because it'll change the world, but it's just the minimum that we need to do to look ourselves in the mirror. And as Noah said, to look at any future generations in the eye. Secondly, we need to give time and money to organizations that are really trying to make a difference. And thirdly, we need to speak up. And speaking up certainly includes in public space, but it also includes in our Jewish institutions and in our Jewish communities. And that then leads to TBZ. Somebody said earlier on that TBZ is part of the Hazon Seal of Sustainability, which you are. And we are proud and happy that you are. But the Hazon Seal isn't like a LEED certification for a building. It's not retrospective. It's not like there was this checklist, check, 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 and you've done it. It's actually a forward commitment. And as somebody mentioned earlier on, this Rosh Hashanah, this coming September, is the start of the Shemitah year in Jewish life. It's the start of the sabbatical year. And the gift that I want to offer you this Tu BiShvat is a community. And particularly this year, as we come back to life, as we come out of COVID, as people get vaccines, as you actually get to come to shul physically for the first time and how amazing it will be. What would it be to take the whole year of Shemitah to imagine and to envision what TBZ could look like 7 years from now, what the Boston Jewish community could look like 7 years from now? What would it mean to involve the whole community? What would it mean to get really excited and to think about it quite deeply? What's the food that we serve at all of our simchas at Kiddush? Do we grow any of our food? What about food justice? What about our relationships with our neighbors? All of the little stickies that went on the screen earlier on about bike lanes. What would it mean next year for Tu BiShvat to say, let's invite our elected officials and let's do it with other shuls in Brookline and some of the churches and a mosque. And let's say it's the Jewish New Year for trees. We want to invite our Congress people and we want to invite the mayor to come and talk about your vision for a more sustainable Brookline, a more sustainable Boston, and a more sustainable Massachusetts. That's what it is to be heir to this amazing tradition, to 20 years of celebrating the land, to 20 centuries, of celebrating trees and the living world, and to play it out for real in the 21st century. Rev Noah's put on the screen the Big Bold Jewish Climate Fest, which is at jewishclimatefest.org. If you go there, there are more than 160 sessions between now and Sunday from people and organizations all over the country on every aspect of Tu BiShvat and engaging with the climate. I want to especially commend a session that we're going to do at 1 o'clock this Sunday, where we're actually going to be talking about the Shemitah and the sabbatical year. We've got 5 amazing panelists, and we're going to announce publicly for the first time a new set of Shemitah prizes. We're going to say to anybody here who's like an artist or creative, or I want to say under the age of 18 or over the age of 18, we're going to invite people to create ritual objects for the Shemitah year to remind all of us of what it is to rest, to pause, and actually to try and reduce inequality in our lives. So for now, I simply want to say thank you. Going to put a couple of links, or somebody just did in the chat. And the one last thing I want to say is something slightly different. Reb Noah before was talking about generations, and from the youngest to the oldest, even in this little Tu BiShvat Seder is quite right. So I've loved Tu BiShvat since I was a kid, and I've been at Tu BiShvat Seders every year since 1986. But 3 years ago, I was in South Africa for Tu BiShvat. I was there because I was officiating a wedding. We just arrived, and we went to an amazing Tu BiShvat Seder in Johannesburg in a park. It was really beautiful. And I'd been back in England the week before to see my dad, who was very, very unwell. And there was a long silent meditation in this very unfamiliar climate. And I was thinking about my dad. And we got back to where we were staying, and the phone rang 5 minutes later, and it was my mum to say that my dad had died. And so as well as everything else, tonight is my dad's 3rd yahrzeit. And so I wanted to dedicate the teaching that we have done this evening in his honor. I'm happy that not only my wife Liz is here in the other room, but also my sister Paula is here right now from California. And at least at one point my mum was on, she was in England, she was having some tech things. So before Rav Tiferet says, I think, a last word, I'm actually going to do Mona's Kaddish, because we gathered here, and I say it because it's my dad's yahrzeit, but I want to invite anybody else who has a yahrzeit to stand up and join me. And as we say it, let's all of us bear in mind this notion that we inherit the world from those who come before us, and we hand it on to those who come after us. And Paula, if you're there, you're welcome to join too. Anybody who wants to should feel free to unmute. Actually, if anybody else is saying Kaddish, just before I go, if you want to say, if you are saying Kaddish, whom you are saying Kaddish for, and then I'm going to lead us in Mona's Kaddish.
Okay. I'm saying it for my father.
Saying it for my mother, Roz Russino.
I'm saying it for my uncle.
My husband.
My friend.
I'm saying it for the people that died from the virus.
My partner.
Yikadal v'yikadash merabah.
Amen.
V'almad yivrak v'tei v'yavrik v'tei. V'chayikon v'mechon v'chayit kol Beit Yisrael. V'galav v'zman tariv v'mru. Amen.
Leolam olmei olmaya.
Barak v'yishlach v'yitpa'ah v'yitramam v'yitnasei. V'yitadav v'yitalel v'yitalal shnei l'kudshah b'recha.
Rehu.
Elah mikol mechata v'shirata tushbachata v'nachamata. V'mimram ba'alma v'imra amen.
Amen.
Hey Shlama Rabba Mishra V'Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Mra Amen.
Amen.
Seh Shalom V'Mama V'Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Mru Amen.
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 So, Nigel, thank you so much for joining us. It's really an honor that you join us here at TBZ and that you are with us. And you have become part of our community for all the times you have been both physically at TBZ, but also lately sometimes joining us online. It's really a blessing to start this holiday with you, and we're loving the growing partnership with Hazon. Rav Tiferet is leading us really into deepening that partnership in ways that are amazing, and having Noah and Tyler, who are both Adama Fellows, and Noah learned to be a farmer there, and Mark, who is a board member, Mark Barnett, a board member both of Hazon and TBZ, really creates a really amazing connection between this most amazing, bold organization that you have created and our community who really believes in this vision. And I take seriously what you just invited us to do. It is not uninteresting to say that yesterday we had our first meeting of our new strategic planning. 3 people in the strategic committee are here tonight. 4, I think I saw even the chair of the strategic planning are here. So I hope you all took notes from what Nigel invited us to think about as we think about how we take TBZ to the next level of what we are, our power, and how we bring future. And we end with song. And we invite you to sing Ya'alos Sadai Bechol Asher Bo. You know this song from our Kabbalat Shabbat. And remember my power, the singing, hearing all of you singing. You have that power too. And if you feel like, stand up, dance, sing, celebrate. It's a holiday. Chag Sameach. Noah, take us.
יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 אז ירננו כל עצי Ya'alos Sadai, ay, 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 ay. Ya'alos Sadai, v'chol asher bo. Ya'alos Sadai, ay, 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 ay. אז ירננו כל עצי יער. אז ירננו כל עצי שדי וכל אשר בו יעלוז שדי איי 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 ay, ay. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you everybody for coming. Chag Sameach. Leitraot. Thank you.
חג שמח.
חג שמח.
תודה רבה.
Thank you, everybody.
חג שמח.
חג שמח.
Hag Sameach. It was